Nope. Still can't play it. Is it fun? I heard it's fun. Welcome back, everyone. I'm your host, Storm, and episode 3 of Brotherhood Final Fantasy 15 continues a little mini trilogy they're doing, exploring how Noctis became friends with Gladiolus and the others. This episode actually focuses on Gladiolus. Back when they were kids, first off, the episode starts off much like the previous one. It shows the four of them fighting off a herd of gorilla, these kind of big elephant-like animals. After they kill one, they get ready to chop it up so they can eat it, and then an airship dropping off some Niflheim robots shows up. So they get to fighting them, and during the course of the fight, or early on in the fight anyway, the flashback begins, showing Gladiolus training Noctis as a kid. At first, it seems that Noctis isn't really taking the studies seriously when it comes to combat training, and he probably isn't, honestly, the way he kind of gives up so easily. Because of that, Gladiolus has a very low opinion of him. The episode kind of does the whole... The episode kind of does the whole preconceived notions thing that I see often enough, I think. I kind of don't like that, honestly. Like, the whole... I think this guy is bad, so because of maybe one small little slight, or maybe one small character flaw, so therefore I'm just gonna write him off altogether. And that happens often. That I see. I just kind of, it's a cliche I wish would really go away. Honestly, I don't know. So right after Noctis quits his combat training, he goes off to eat dinner with his father, Regis, and we don't know what kind of relationship Noctis had with his mother or what Regis had with his wife back then when she was still alive, but seeing the two of them kind of eating in that dining hall, basically alone, there were butlers sitting there waiting to tend to them, and Gladiolus was there standing guard next to the door with someone else also about the guard. But the meal between Noctis and Regis was very quiet and really seemed like empty almost. Not that Noctis doesn't love his father, not that Regis doesn't love his son, but just that there was no talking at all between the two of them. And I can't help but feel there is some sort of void there without Noctis' mother. Like, Noctis does seem a little depressed though for a kid. Like I think there's something obviously missing from him. He's like, what, 8 or 9 years old at this point, maybe 10 even. I think there's obviously something missing from him, and that's sort of creating that sort of mini rift between the two of them. And again, they do care about each other, Noctis and Regis, but it's just in this one instance, seeing them not talk, seeing that dinner being sort of somber in a way. I get the impression that his mother's death still weighs pretty much on Noctis. That's the impression I get anyway. Regis asks Noctis about his training, and Noctis says things are going okay, they're going fine. Regis, of course, doesn't totally buy the explanation, but doesn't really pursue it much. When Noctis refuses to eat his carrots, Regis points out he hasn't eaten his carrots, the carrots of his dinner, they're having steak and carrots apparently. Noctis refuses to eat them, and that, of course, lowers Gladiolus' opinion of him even more. Which I kind of feel is weird, though, because Noctis is a little kid. Little kids usually are picky eaters. The fact that he doesn't want to eat his carrots at the age of, what, 8 or 9? And that really pisses off Gladiolus. I think it's a bit weird. I think it's very biased towards it from him. I don't know. Yeah, Noctis shucks his training, so Gladiolus maybe doesn't think too much of him at first. Then Noctis says, I don't like carrots. And so Gladiolus is like, you know what? Fuck this guy. I hate him. Like, he immediately jumps from this kid's a slacker to fuck this guy. Like, in an instant. Which I think is just Very, very odd. I mean, again, Noctis is fucking 8. What are you gonna expect from an 8-year-old? 8 or 9. So then the scene transitions to Gladys's house, which is very nice looking from the outside and very nice looking from the inside too, honestly. Gladiolus kind of outwardly rants about Noctis for a bit, not liking him, calling him stuck up. His younger sister Iris overhears him, kind of teases him about telling the father, who I believe is the king of the royal guard, like telling him that Gladiolus, his son, who's supposed to be like his successor in some form, who will be one of the personal guards for the king, is bad mouthing the prince. Obviously, that doesn't look too well. Gladiolus plays the sister for a second, just tells her that he's just burning off steam. Iris still kind of chides him on the way he was talking about Noctis. And what Gladiolus said, I'm not sure if there was any meaning behind this, or if it was just him again blowing off steam. Gladiolus very, very openly doubts Noctis' chance of becoming the king. He doesn't think Noctis can do it, or has what it takes to do it. And when Iris kind of presses him for that, like, what does he mean by that? Gladiolus just kind of shoos the issue away, like it really didn't mean anything, like it isn't important. Now, I don't know if that's just him blowing off steam again. Like he thinks his opinion of Noctis is so low that he doesn't think he can do it at all, become king, or he's not worthy of being king at the very least. Or there is something in the background that maybe Gladiolus is privy to that he thinks could hurt Noctis' chances. My wager with him would be on Gladiolus just blowing off steam, just thinking Noctis can't do it. That's what I'm assuming anyway. So anyway, the next day comes, and Gladiolus gets a message saying his sister is at the palace, is at the royal or castle, mansion, whatever it is that they live in. I guess it's a giant palace. I don't know. At least from the trailers anyway, it looks like a palace. So Gladiolus' sister Iris shows up and requests an audience with Noctis, and after throwing a mini tantrum about why Gladiolus can see Noctis because it's his job, and why she can't, just kind of gets enough. So she throws a little tantrum, and the butler, I assume the butler, he looks like a butler, goes off to request an audience with Noctis. Whether or not they got the audience was never actually stated. Maybe they did. Because after Iris is told to stay put in a small room, she sees a cat kind of scurrying off somewhere and follows it. And the next scene shows Noctis walking towards an appointment of some sort with a caretaker, whatever that appointment was. If he was going to see Iris or if he was going to somewhere else, don't know, honestly. But he notices Iris kind of run after the cat into the garden. Noctis ditches his caretaker and goes after her, curious at like what some random little girl is doing in the middle of the palace. Iris loses sight of the cat, tumbles down a small, I want to say hill, whatever you want to call it, mound maybe, I don't know. She tumbles down, she slides into the mud, it starts pouring down, and being a little girl, like, I don't know how old Iris is, maybe 5 or 6, maybe. You can never tell the anime, honestly. Gladius is supposed to be like 13 maybe in this, no, not 13, maybe 11 or 12 in this episode. Yet he already towers over Noctis. But that could be more so from Gladius' training and his upbringing. So anyway, Noctis finds Iris sitting in the middle of the mud crying. He comforts her and tells her it's going to be okay. You're fine. I know where we are. I can lead us back out. So he does that. He leads Iris back out to the palace. There's a big commotion going on because Iris went missing and Noctis is missing. So when Noctis shows up with Iris again, right at that moment, Gladiolus comes in and yells at Iris for going missing. And right before she starts crying again, Reed just shows up and asks what the commotion is that in the middle of the foyer. Gladius begins to explain what's going on, but then Noctis chimes in and takes the hit for Iris for wandering off and going missing in the middle of the palace. He tells his father that he actually asked Iris outside to play with him, and Regis chastises Noctis for doing that, supposedly. That Noctis is of royal blood, that he can't just go wandering off out of wherever he wants to, that he could have put Iris in danger because, he went missing without telling anyone and they didn't know where he was. So not only does Noctis get punished for something that Iris did, he took the hit for her, like I said, but Gladiolus also gets a personal apology from the king himself, which, very nice, very, I wouldn't say humble, but I think it's a very good sign of Regis's character, that something fucked up happened, and rather than blowing up at everyone or like blaming everyone else for a fuck up that wasn't his fault, his personally, I mean Regis anyway, he actually apologized to Gladiolus for causing a possible disturbance and getting his sister in trouble. Later that night, Iris explains that to Gladiolus that what Noctis said was actually a lie. That really that she had went missing on her own, and that Noctis found her and brought her back. At first, Gladiolus didn't believe it, but I was able to convince him. So the next day, in that instant, actually, in that moment, Gladiolus' opinion of Noctis did a complete 180. He came to Noctis the next day doing his one of his punishments was to do I believe it was an essay one of his tutors had given him. Gladiolus came to talk to him and convinced him to go training with him. Even though Noctis had enough on his plate from the punishment he was getting from his father, Gladiolus convinced him to go train, to put on his combat gear, pick up the wooden sword again, and start going at it. And still, at this point, Noctis still isn't any good at it, and he is a little what's what I'm looking for? Not defeated, but discouraged. I think probably in that moment, Gladiolus kind of realized that it wasn't Noctis shirking his duties as prince to train the combat. It's just that he's not good at it yet. That really discourages him, so he kind of ran away from the problem. But despite running away from that problem, when there was an actual emergency going on, Noctis stood up to the plate, helped his sister, and even took the blame for her, so she wouldn't get in trouble. And it's more of Noctis' character being revealed to Gladiolus that his opinion changed of him more and more. And despite the fact that he's not very good yet, and he kind of wants to avoid training as much as he can, Gladiolus sticks to him and assures him that no matter what, he is going to train him to make him better. That he is going to make sure that the prince, whom he has newfound respect for, will get the training that he needs, and that he will be by his side no matter what. He's not going to make things easy for Noctis, but he is going to help push him along the way to where he needs to be. And I said in the last video that Noctis really needs a friend like Prompto, who is somewhat irreverent about Noctis' station as prince, and respects and likes Noctis for who he is as a person. That same thing can be said about Gladiolus, who likes and respects Noctis for who he is, but is also there to help push him along. Noctis does seem to get discouraged, at least early on, and there may be times where he is a little defeated, but he will always have Gladiolus behind him, pushing him forward and getting him out of whatever rut that he's in. And I think that's really symbolized in that last moment of the flashback when they're both sitting next to each other, and Gladiolus thanks him for taking the blame for what Iris did, and again assures him that he's got his back no matter what. So at the end of the flashback, we go back to the present. The battle against the Gorilla, who for some weird reason decided that they want to try and attack the Niflheim robots. As far as I remember, in the demo, they never did that. if I'm ever fighting the Niflheim robots, or more likely if I'm fighting a gorilla, and the robots show up, I have to contend with both halves at the same time. I do not remember the gorilla ever like even randomly or accidentally attacking the machines. It's always me and the rest of the party who are always getting throttled by everyone. I don't remember that in the demo. I could check back, but I don't think it happened. Hopefully in the full game that does happen. Hopefully that's something they put into the full game, that if you find multiple enemies at the same time, maybe they sometimes turn against each other to try and clear the field so they can focus on you. I mean, that's feature. I hope that actually is in the final game. It probably isn't, but if they do a sequel to the game, maybe they should put that in there. But anyway, Gladiolus and Noctis started a little competition before the flashback. Whoever can defeat the most enemies, or the most robots anyway, will be the winner, and will, as Gladiolus said, will feast like a king that night. I guess he basically means they'll get the largest portion of the gorilla meat that they're going to cook up. In the end, they ended up tying 4 each, but despite that, they took it in stride. It was a friendly competition, and I mean, I guess that's kind of it, honestly. Friendly competition, win or lose. Well, like I said, Gladiolus is never going to make it easy for Noctis, no matter what. So, regardless of who won, they're pressing forward. And they have to head back to the last town so they can buy spices for the steak that they're going to eat. Which bums the fuck out of Prompto, but you want to eat, right? I mean, I'm pretty sure you can eat steak without any seasoning on it, but would you want to? Would you want to, really? I'm sure that if they did do that, Prompto would probably complain anyway, so there really is no winning here. They have to go back and get the seasoning. I said before, but I really like this anime. I really wish they would do more episodes of it or something for Final Fantasy. It really is a good show. So, that's it for now. I'll talk to you guys later.